Hello, I'm on. I'm Andy Silvester. I'm the editor of City AM, which is London's business newspaper. If I'm doing my job, you should all read it in the morning. We're going to talk about the sexy stuff, software, as they always say. The car as a device. We've got an amazing panel here to talk about those wow moments that you get these days when you get in a car and realize it can do stuff you never thought was possible when you were a little kid playing with little model Ferraris. So yeah, from left to right, we've got Nico Kersten, who's the CEO of Mercedes Pay. We've got Maria Uvarova from Stellantis, Almakky at the end from JP Morgan. I've read my list in the wrong way around, and Marcus Welz, who's the CEO of Connected Mobility at Hyundai. Nico, I'm going to start with you, the car as a device. Let's talk a little bit about where we've come from, very briefly. You know, where does demand has to be there for you to deliver Mercedes Pay, right? It has to be serving a need. And then let's talk about how, as an OEM, you're becoming a digital-first business.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having us. I think the first word I want to spread is we really believe in ecosystems, right? And that hopefully answers the first question. We build an ecosystem for our customer. What we as Mercedes Pay, for example, are supporting to that is in the end the complete journey a customer has with Mercedes-Benz. So you're browsing the internet looking for your dream car, and then you found it. And then, of course, you want to secure it on the spot. And that is the first payment touch point in the end to reserve your vehicle with a reservation payment. And, of course, offering here also in the UK full vehicle payment. So buying your dream car online digital is reality. And then converting it to the usage phase, that is where the real ecosystem effect comes into play, right? So using the vehicle, offering services that are car-related, like parking, charging, fueling, and also upgrading your vehicle. And that is what Mercedes Pay is supporting in the ecosystem. But how or what do we need to establish that? And also there, Mercedes-Benz took a quite conscious decision to build the operating system, and we call that Mercedes-Benz operating system that will hit the market next year. We decided to build that in-house. Why? Because we as an OEM want to control the customer interface, the customer interaction, because a good ecosystem is only of value if we have a consistent customer journey. And what have we done? So for the car software, we even built up an own company called Ambition, which hired a lot of software engineers. Then having the hardware of the car, the software of the car, we also need the shop systems in that ecosystem. Also there, we have Mercedes-Benz Digital that is building all the different shops, whether that are available on the web, in the app, or in the car. But we also do it in-house, and that is important, and that is where also Mercedes Pay as a payment component, when you want to monetize also an ecosystem, you need that extremely relevant infrastructure and know-how in-house. So in the end, it's a lot of building blocks, having the hardware that we can do since 100 years, more than 100 years, building our software on our own, having the shop system, having the payment neatly integrated into the customer journey, and that obviously is something that we want to bring more and more to our customer, and where we are daily working on.
Yeah, for sure. It's fascinating, the speed of innovation. Maria, I want to come to you, and maybe you can settle a debate or start a debate. Are OEMs turning into software companies, or are they still OEMs using software?
That's a very good question, and for sure still a debate in the industry, because I don't think we have settled it yet. On the one hand, of course, OEMs have to transform themselves, right? Because the train has left the station, literally. We are definitely looking at software-defined vehicles today, and it's not a trend that we can revert back. But at the same time, transformation of a company is a long time, and it's not something that can happen overnight, and we still see that several OEMs are trying to, let's say, limit this transformation, maybe create some specific software units within the company with a specific culture that is limited just to that unit, or they still outsource software development. At the same time, those type of limited transformations, at least from my experience, do not really succeed, right? And we observed some of those, I would call them fiascos maybe, lately, right? And so, not to be too pessimistic, right? But we need to acknowledge that OEMs really are going through some kind of a battle royale today, right? Within themselves, actually, right? It's an internal battle with themselves, with the culture that they have, and it remains to be seen whether or not some of those OEMs actually survive this battle. So at Stellantis, what we see is that we are actually transforming the whole company from within. This is a huge task, and we acknowledge that. But it's not enough to just create a software unit just to in-house some engineers and claim that you now build software-defined vehicles. You need to make sure that actually the whole company follows suit and changes the development cycles, changes the way we are thinking about the car, the way we are thinking about the customer, the way we are thinking about the way we actually build the car and address the customer needs. Because the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest advantage of actually having software-defined vehicles, connected vehicles, is the fact that now we are much closer to the customers, closer than ever, right? We are able to actually get in real time feedback how the customers are using our products, whether or not they like them, whether or not they are actually returning to that, whether our adoption, retention metrics are where they should be. And so with the help of that, we're actually able to react to customer needs and predict them much faster than ever before. But in order to actually be this reactive and proactive, the company needs to change. The whole company needs to change, not just the software division.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question in one sentence, I don't know yet.
Marcus, I'm going to let you jump in. You can give us the answer if you want, but we've heard about some of the challenges there, particularly around the cultural transformation in a business. But let's look at the opportunities of the car as a device, get into the detail a little bit of what you're doing at Hyundai.
Yeah, so I mean, more and more cars are getting connected, but what does it actually mean? I mean, a connected car it features intelligent systems, right? It is not just a SIM card or a feature or the infotainment system. It's an ecosystem, which we heard already, which provides better trips, safer trips, smarter trips, more reliable trips, more convenient trips. And for us, our connected car platform is called BlueLink. We launched this early 2020. And since then, we have continuously improved our portfolio and our usage. So at the moment in Europe, we have around 1 million active users. And with active users, I really mean users which didn't just register, but really actively use it. And by the end of this year, we are expecting to have 1.5 million active users, because at the moment we are having an activation rate of more than 90%. Interestingly, though, for a lot of and this is Europe, right? Globally, we are around 12 million active users as a group between Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis. But for the users, it is often the app, right? And this is interesting. A connected car is often the app, and no wonder, right? They use it on a frequent basis. They can preheat the car or cool the car on a sunny day, or preheat the car on a lousy winter day. They can have a lot of remote action, smart charging. For us, it's actually also the digital key, meaning that, and we are utilizing the CCC protocol, which is one of the most safest ways on how to do it. This is directly integrated into the app of the smartphone, into the wallet of the smartphone, which makes it easy to share the key with a friend or get the parcel delivered into the vehicle itself. But the heart of the system sits in the car, and the brain of the system sits obviously in the cloud. And one element which connected car, and one problem which it can really solve, is in order to achieve a fast-paced adoption of electric vehicles, one of the topics we are all still dealing with is range anxiety, right? And one of the elements how to solve this is making charging uneventful, planning, booking, and also paying for charging in an integral way. And this is one of the solutions which could really make connected car, let's say, difference, and which could help provide this system in a meaningful way. But we actually don't want to stop there, because we've already debated a lot on vehicle to grid. And I would like to argue that we, from an OEM perspective, have made also positive real-life examples on how we can make vehicle-to-grid a reality, and we're now bringing not only the bidirectional charging, but also the integration with the infrastructure into real-world application. This all started in a pilot project in the Netherlands, and now we are actually starting again in the Netherlands with another, not vehicle-to-grid, but in this case, vehicle-to-infrastructure application. We have made an agreement with the Dutch government, which integrates the Hyundai and Kia vehicles with the infrastructure of the government. So we are getting real-time traffic and safety information directly into the vehicle. We are starting with a use case, which is the emergency vehicle approach. So what we will see in the cars is that there is an alert if there is a real-time accident on the road happening, and also when the emergency vehicle is approaching, so that the driver can more easily yield the right of way to the emergency vehicle, whether this is in a dense urban environment or on a highway. And the beauty is that we use over-the-air updates to bring this technology by the end of this year in all the vehicles. So it's not only available for new models we launch in the future, but also retrospectively going to the cars. And there are so many more vehicle-to-infrastructure use cases which can actually build upon.
Yeah, it's so exciting to hear the speed of that development. And Maria, I want to come back to you, because I know you came from the traditional tech world into this, but we'll jump back in a second. I just want to ask Ali first. The interaction between bank and automotive about 20 years ago involved, does my credit card have enough scope here for me to get this nice new car? Things have changed. Talk to us about the bank's role, particularly maybe with reference to Mercedes Pay and those payment solutions, and your role at JP Morgan.
Thanks. So at a high level, I mean, the bank's role is that you would traditionally think of corporate finance, capital markets, advisory, trade, working capital, FX, et cetera, which we do all day, every day. What we have been focused on is helping develop payments ecosystems which are catered for a particular industry, and in this case, mobility. We invested in a fintech which was previously owned by Volkswagen Group, which is focused exclusively on the mobility sector. Mm-hmm. And our objective is to help develop new use cases and support the digitization of the broader mobility journey. To some of the points that were made earlier, I would say the way we think about it is there is an entire ecosystem which has various players playing within it. How we can bring together that holistic experience for the consumer, where the payment becomes seamless and embedded, rather than something that they need to think about and make a conscious decision around. So the whole idea is to make this something that they don't need to think about, which is the payment. That's the area that we're focused on around the entire journey of the consumer and the vehicle, be it the ownership-related payments, so loan payments, lease payments, insurance payments, or subscription payments, which we already have live use cases of. Yeah. Maintenance-related payments, so be it service programs or spare parts. And lastly, what Nico was also mentioning, mobility or usage-related payments, so parking, tolling, charging, fueling, car washes, etc. So what we have live now is use cases across that entire ecosystem, working together with a series of partners, several of whom are here. And the idea there being we want to be able to enable that payment in a way where we can make it convenient for the consumer, but also not create a lot of pain from an integration perspective or technology perspective for our OEM partners. In that journey, the way we see it right now and what is live for us is a lot of legacy offline use cases that we've brought online. So these are payments related to traditional sort of car reservation, car booking payments, related to dealership network payments, or insurance premium payments, etc. What we see in growing very quickly, at least within our own ecosystem and platform, is enabling some of the things that were just talked about around software payments. So enabling in-car software, payments related to that, enabling the usage of devices and other things which a lot of the OEMs are offering on a subscription basis. One last thing I'd mention is that the big question that is always asked of us is where do we see the hockey stick or the growth coming from? And that is a question of when and how big and which use case. And those are all questions which I don't think there's an obvious answer for, other than at the moment, it is exactly the use case that was discussed, which is the EV charging use case. And in the current vehicles around fueling, around those use cases, you do see a lot of potential in terms of both growth and volume coming through. I think other use cases will have to come with maturity of the market and the progression of what OEMs are willing to offer within the vehicle.
Yeah, for sure. That's fascinating. Nico and Marcus, I'm going to come back to you on that use case versus innovation argument. But Maria, I did warn you, I wanted to touch on that cultural thing, because if you think of software, you think of tech, you think of move fast and break things, and that really kind of almost destructive in some cases ethos. You've now moved into the OEM world, which is not a place where we would want move fast and break things. So how do you balance and embed that into, take the best of tech into the best of OEM?
It's a good question, and I would say that we really need to take the best from both worlds, right? And what I always repeat to my team when we perform another major software update or we send a new product to our car park via over-the-air updates, and we actually did 94 million of those just last year. So every time we do that, I repeat to my team, you know, if your mobile app crashes, nothing happens. If the app in your car crashes, something actually might happen. So let's pay extra attention. And yes, the fact that we are actually transforming the OEM from within, bringing software engineers from the big tech industry into a traditional OEM company actually helps us create very good awareness of those both worlds, that we need to figure out where exactly we can actually compress the production and validation cycles and where we shouldn't do that. We are laser focused on making sure that our processes are really optimized, not just for agile development, but for safety. Safety is absolutely paramount for us, and we see that the customers for sure agree, because every time we look at all those kind of benchmarking reports, what the customers actually value about different make and models or different software products in different cars. Of course, we can always compare infotainment systems, we can always compare mobile companion apps, but if one of those competitors in those ratings show that they have some safety issues, it immediately drops down to the very bottom of the rating and nothing else really matters, right? So safety for sure is paramount for us, and we also observe, by the way, that when it comes to software products, and we measure willingness to pay for those software products, talking about subscription economy and so on, any kind of safety and security related features are always in the top quadrant. Those are the features that people are actually willing to pay for, and they are actually coming back and renewing their subscriptions year over year. So for sure, this is really where we want to focus our attention.
Which I guess comes back to that debate, can an OEM be a tech company? Nico, again, I warned you on this one. The potential for in this space is almost unlimited, right? It must be one of the most exciting bits about the job, is thinking, God, we could do this and we could do that. And right now, is your focus on, you know, a few well-defined use cases, or is it still that innovation pushing the boundaries? Or both?
The answer is both. So, I mean, that is the challenge, but that is also the fun part, right? And I just can, again, say the ecosystem and the value for the customer is so important for us. And that's why we cannot just, you know, take fueling and make it the best experience ever. Because we have charging customers. We talked about digital upgrades and so on. But the same customer wants to buy a new car, you know, wants to be or have a new offer, you know, at the end of his customer life cycle for the next car. So in the end, the challenge, and I think that is also what we as OEMs need to understand is, and Mario, you said it very well. So we were extremely good at hardware. And safety, and that never has to be compromised. We need to be exactly as good as with that in the software space. And building software solutions that are, comparable to the big e-commerce shops, to the user experience we know, for example, from mobile phones. That is something that, on the one side, need a lot of, I would say, technology that you need to integrate. So that's why, also talking with Ali. I mean, talking with fintech nerds, with the payment guys, we need to translate it to the automotive world. Because automotive payment is something else than e-commerce payment. And that is something that we need to do. But on the same side, there is so much innovation going on, especially in the payment side. And what we last year did is taking the experience that almost every one of us knows from the mobile phones with Face ID or fingerprint payment, we just brought it to the car. So in the car, if there is a need for an authentication, you can just use the built-in fingerprint scanner to authenticate yourself. So we need that innovation to make the ecosystem as seamless. I know that is a buzzword, but that is in the end the reality. We need it as seamless to not have payment as a breaking point in the customer journey or in the monetization journey. But of course, if you decide to pay for something, and then it's hard to pay, you will have a conversion rate that is not comparable. And that is exactly why we cannot concentrate on specific topics. We need to level up the complete customer experience, and I have a fantastic team that is working all day on that.
Yeah. Marcus, I just want to bring you in on that one. Again, same question, innovation versus use cases, or as Nico says, do you need the use cases to work, to be adopted, to allow you to innovate?
Yeah, I mean, maybe just also 3 quick comments on what I've said. I think because I actually joined automotive 3 years ago. For the first 16 years in my life, I've been in tech and engineering. And I think, let's say, OEMs have traditionally been built to deliver a vehicle project at a predefined start of production and then move on to the next vehicle. And so although there is a lot of step changes in the OEM industry that we continuously deliver hardware and software platform there, but there is also no merit to be found to dismantle all of the existing organizations and strengths and just to try to imitate tech companies. So I think one of the challenges what we see in an OEM that there is, we really need to start from the use case. And why this sounds so simple, there is a common pitfall that we often develop offerings with the purpose of using technology and then hope that this will later somehow magically transform into an unknown but highly profitable use case. This rarely works, in my opinion, right? So we have to think from the use case from the get-go, and we have to solve a real problem. And we also cannot just oversimplify, right? And this starts with simple things, right? If I prompt my navigation system to a destination and the car is smart enough to know that this is a hotel or a restaurant in the city center, it can automatically suggest me where to park. And ideally, maybe with another click, I can pay for that. The same, by the way, also applies for when we all use artificial intelligence, right? It's, of course, the quick win, and we are doing the same, obviously, to have an AI assistant using large language model, which is great. It helps the interaction with the vehicle, right? But the actual benefit of the customer is, so if when you and I maybe buy a new Hyundai in the future and the infotainment system looks the exact same way on day one, but since you have different driving patterns, since you have different preferences than I do while driving this car, then this car is able to adjust also the way it interacts, what is really displayed on the home screen. This makes it more convenient. And when we talk about the holy grail of monetization, really, I think ultimately it is about, it's not about, let's put it that way, it's not about adding tons of apps into a car which nobody uses. It's about really these things which add value, where there's a high usage, where you solve a problem, and then also people are willing to pay for that. Especially if you bring in use cases maybe later, through an over-the-air update, which hasn't been available when the customer bought the new car, then there is a clear benefit being provided. And I'm not talking about heated seats right now, but the same logic, right, of, let's say, feature on demand, but utilizing this in a way to provide new features into older cars by utilizing these technologies.
Yeah, I'm sure, Ali, you were nodding there about the solving problems, right? Just constantly solving problems and thinking about the problem first.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say payment is where the monetization begins. So regardless of how you look at it, it's a critical component. I do think that one of the things that we are all talking about in concept around the software-defined vehicle or around connected vehicles is the critical point about data, right? So all of this will generate data, and a lot of it. We have the telematics data from the vehicle, but we also now would have payments data relating to the consumer. And if you look and work with the full end-to-end bank like JP Morgan, where you are a card issuer as well, you would have the third leg of the data piece as well, to try and bring together a complete picture of the vehicle owner and be able to then customize, as was mentioned, to the needs and usage preferences of that customer. I mean, the end result that everybody aspires to is to have a consumer segment of one, right? Where you have a customized, personalized car where everything is exactly the way that the customer wants. I think that this is a stop along that journey. I think this is going to help in a significant way where you start to bring this data together. Data has been captured for more than a decade or more, but the question is, how do you actually monetize it and use it? I think this helps along that journey and will bring more opportunities to create those customized experiences around the vehicle and within the vehicle.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating space, and we could talk for a lot longer than we've got. We could talk about the need for new skills coming into the industry. We could talk about a bit more on that cultural piece. We could talk about how you argue for investment within OEMs for that exciting software innovation and how you balance it with all the other challenges and investment cases that are around the business. But we're not going to do that because we've got 2 minutes left. So instead, we're going to look into our crystal ball. We're here 5 years' time. None of us have got grayer. None of us have seen our waistlines expand. We're all good. What are we talking about when we talk about the car as a device in 5 years' time? What do we look back on and say, goodness me, we succeeded, we did it? Nico, I'll start with you.
I think 3 weeks ago, I was on vacation with my family in Austria, and we had like a 5 hours drive back. And what was happening in the car, I would love to invite a demand manager to that situation. Yeah? So my son in the back, he's 7, watched Netflix. My daughter is 13, heard a podcast. My wife was working on a laptop, and I was listening to a radio. So the problem that will be solved in 5 years is that we have every passenger need, whether it's entertainment, whether it's shopping, whatever you want in a car, will be solved by integrating hardware, software, and payment.
Okay. Ali?
Good answer. Yeah, so actually, just to quickly maybe add on top of that, I would say that also personalization will probably come with more augmented reality, right? Because this is what will really help the customers feel more entertained and more maybe at home, even when they are driving in a different country.
Okay.
And I think to the point made, there are 3 things I see. One is customization, driving towards a very, very different customer experience for the driver at the end of the day, which would be driven by a lot of the autonomous conversation we heard earlier in the keynote, as well as a lot of the software-driven, data-driven use cases that we're talking through. I think the second piece is, as we start to think about mobility more as the ecosystem, as we've been talking about it, it is less about the vehicle and more about the journey and the objective of going from point A to point B and how that gets solved. So it becomes a more integrated journey over time rather than just the, use the vehicle from one point to the other. And I think the third piece is around consumer expectations and how they evolve. I feel that there's going to be a significant change that we will see in the next 5 years versus what we've seen in the last, I would say, 20, around what they expect the car to be able to do in an ongoing way to meet their multiple needs, all the way from designing their journey and helping them complete the journey, but also the other experiences that were just talked through.
Marcus, last word.
Yeah, maybe so. I think also in the future, but people driving or being driven in an owned, leased, shared, hailed vehicle will still amount for 85% of the mobility. But there is an incremental shift, which is from ownership to vehicle usage. And this is why we have also now scaling our, like one of our new mobility models, Motion, which is the car subscription scheme across Europe. And what actually one of the holy grails for mobility offerings is that, and once we are ready to apply autonomous driving vehicles into those schemes, we will certainly unlock the full potential, and we are able to reimagine how people move from A to B seamlessly and sustainably. We are highly committed. We have several joint ventures going on in the US or in Korea, where we have the longest standing robotaxi service in commercial operation. And so the autonomous vehicle will certainly enable us to go from vehicle as a service, where we're already great today, to mobility as a service.
Amazing. Thanks so much. And ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to thank the panel who are at the bleeding edge of this technology and innovation for their insights. Thanks very much.
Thank you.